I was but a young colt when my life became intertwined with history. In 1774, at barely 3 years old, I was spirited and eager, still growing into my strength. Little did I know that my life in Boston would become a part of something monumental, a movement that would ignite the birth of a nation. My master, Paul Revere, was a man filled with purpose and courage, and I, his faithful steed, would bear witness to a series of events that would be told for centuries. Boston in those days was a city simmering with discontent. People whispered of taxes and laws passed by distant rulers, and the heavy weight of oppression seemed to press down on every corner of the city. Paul was often on edge, though he hid it well. I sensed it in his hurried pace and tense grip as he led me through the bustling streets. He wasn't just a silversmith, he was part of a group known as the Sons of Liberty, a band of patriots who met in secret, sharing plans and discussing grievances. During the day, Paul and I moved through the cobblestone streets, delivering messages and supplies. I would stand outside of meeting houses and taverns, my ears twitching as his voice joined in urgent conversation. It was in these quiet moments, waiting outside in the moonlight, that I began to understand my place in the unfolding story. I was more than just a horse, I was a silent witness to the tides of revolution, and soon, I would be part of it. One night, Paul came to me with a sense of purpose and intensity one hadn't felt before. It was the night of April 18th, 1775, a night that would be etched in history as the Midnight Ride. Paul had received word from Dr. Joseph Warren that the British forces planned to march on Lexington, intending to arrest Samuel Adams and John Hancock. The news was urgent and grave. There was no time to waste. The British were coming, and Paul needed to sound the alarm. I remember the feel of the cool night air as Paul mounted me, his hands steady but his eyes alight with a fire I hadn't seen before. His grip on the reins was firm, and I knew that whatever awaited us, he was ready. As we set off, the cobblestones beneath my hoofs echoed into the silence, a sound that marked the beginning of our ride. The city fell away behind us as we rode, and soon we were galloping through the countryside, winding through forests and fields. Paul leaned close, whispering reassurances, urging me on. We moved swiftly, the shadows stretching and shifting under the light of the moon. Every sense in me was heightened. I could feel the cool air against my coat, the tautness of Paul's grip, and the rhythm of my hoofs pounding the earth as we raced into the unknown. Our first stop was in Charlestown, where Paul whispered to a man named John Devons, urging him to spread the word. From there, we continued, moving from town to town, village to village, leaving behind startled faces, lit lamps, and the stirrings of early morning preparations. I could sense the fear and the urgency in each person we met, the way they straightened their backs and steeled their expressions, understanding that war was upon us. Each time Paul dismounted to alert another patriot, I would stand silently, my breathing heavy but my spirit unshaken. I was fueled by the energy of the night, driven by the urgency of our mission. In those moments, I felt Paul's trust in me, a trust that went beyond words. He knew I would carry him safely through the night, that I would not falter. Our journey was not without danger. At one point, we encountered a British patrol, a terrifying moment that made my heart pound. The soldier stepped into our path, demanding to know Paul's business. I stood still, sensing his tension, feeling his determination. Despite the threat before us, Paul's voice was calm and steady as he spoke to them, his tone unwavering. His defiance was something to behold. Even in the face of danger, he would not yield. The patrol eventually released us, and we resumed our ride, more resolved than ever to complete our mission. The night stretched on, and we traveled further and faster than I ever imagined possible. Paul's voice echoed through the villages, stirring people from their slumber, rousing them to action. I could see the resolve in their eyes, the fire that lit within them as they realized the British were on their way. Young men took up arms, farmers sharpened their tools, mothers and children watched with somber expressions, understanding that their lives would be forever changed. As dawn broke over Lexington, we had covered miles upon miles. My legs were weary, my coat damp with sweat, but my heart was full. I had carried Paul through the darkness, through fear and uncertainty, and now, as the first light of morning touched the fields, I felt a sense of accomplishment that words could never convey. We had done our part, and the people of Massachusetts were prepared for the fight that lay ahead. In the weeks and months following that fateful ride, Boston became a place of great unrest. Tensions between the colonies and England escalated, and it wasn't long before open conflict erupted. I continued to stand by Paul's side, no longer just a messenger's horse but a part of the revolution itself. My role changed. I carried supplies to soldiers, transported letters between towns, and bore witness to skirmishes and battles as the American Revolution took root. I became accustomed to the sounds of musket fire and the smell of gunpowder. The streets of Boston, once familiar and bustling with life, were now lined with soldiers and filled with the heavy atmosphere of war. Paul continued to rely on me, his loyal companion, to carry him safely through it all. I knew his touch, his voice, his mood as well as he knew my steps, my strength, and my spirit. I began to see that this war was more than a series of battles. It was a struggle for freedom, a fight for something intangible yet essential. I could sense it in the faces of the people we passed, in the way they stood tall despite the hardships, and in the determination that radiated from them like a beacon. They were fighting for their homes, their families, their right to determine their own fate. Over time, my body grew strong and resilient. My coat, once sleek and glossy, became marked with the signs of hard work and wear. My muscles were hardened from the endless miles we traveled, but I felt no resentment. I knew that my life had purpose, that my service to Paul and to Boston was part of a story larger than myself. As the years passed and the war began to wane, peace returned to Boston. The city was forever changed, and so was I. Paul, too, was different. The fire that had once driven him was now replaced with a quiet sense of fulfillment. He had played his part, and though he rarely spoke of it, I knew he took pride in what we had accomplished together. One day, Paul led me to a small pasture on the edge of the city. He patted my neck, whispered words of gratitude, and left me there, to graze in peace. My days of galloping through moonlit fields were behind me, but I felt a sense of contentment as I watched the city from afar. I had been part of something extraordinary, and though I was now an old horse, my spirit was forever young, forever galloping beside my brave master, Paul Revere. Epilogue. The years have rolled by, and I am now a quiet observer of the life in Boston. Children come to pat my nose and whisper stories of the midnight ride, tales passed down from their parents and grandparents. They call me a hero, though I am just a horse, one small part of a much larger history. In my final days, I stand under the Boston sun, content in the knowledge that I played my part in the fight for freedom. Though my bones are weary and my coat has lost its sheen, my spirit remains strong. I am Paul Revere's horse, a humble witness to the birth of a nation, and I know that the echoes of my hoofbeats will resound through history, a testament to the courage and determination that birthed a new nation.